Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Today is August the 10th, 2012. Here are the boxing stories that fascinate me. First, you have a very significant decision that came down by the IBF that really does threaten to change the balance of the sport. Apparently, the IBF, with an admission from Lamont Peterson that he synthetically augmented his testosterone levels, has chosen to leave Peterson with the IBF belt at 140 pounds. Right? Apparently they had some doctor look at his medical records and chart and conclude that his testosterone enhancement was consistent with therapeutic use. Now let me just say, and this is the net, we can say what we want here. We can keep it as real as possible. This whole thing is a crock of baloney. Right? It's ludicrous to believe that in athletics, any credible athletic organization would allow testosterone enhancement. Right? As I've said before, you can get a doctor to say whatever you want him to say. And what they've done is they've opened the door now for every fighter who wants to elevate his testosterone a few notches to go ahead and do so while claiming a testosterone deficiency. Let me point out, at the top of the sport, these guys are multi-millionaires, right? Just at the very top, but they're multi-millionaires. And understand that many of the players behind the scenes are repeat players. Right? Several fighters have the same strength coaches. Several fighters have the same trainers. Several fighters have the same management groups. And so what you have now is a situation where if you're properly connected, if you're in the know, then you'll know how to have your fighter synthetically enhance his testosterone, and you'll know exactly what doctor to refer him to and what argument to make before the proper sanctioning body. This is an outrage, especially in this day and age where we know testosterone levels drop over time and where we see some of the elite fighters in the sport getting older and older, right? We have champions in their late 30s. Right? We have guys fighting for titles in their late 40s. Right? We have contenders in their late 40s who want shots at the title. Right? And so all I'm saying is in this environment, you can't condone synthetic testosterone augmentation at all. But yet that's exactly what the IBF is doing at 140 pounds. Stunning. Let me just say, for those also keeping track, the IBF has instructed Lamont Peterson that he has to fight Zab Judah shortly. And let me just say, it's a farce. Moving on to other boxing stories. You know, Manny Pacquiao has a full plate these days. People don't realize that there is a huge political battle that's brewing right now in the Philippines over state-subsidized contraception, right? Filipinos have one of the highest reproduction rates in the world. And Filipino President Benigno Aquino is actually pushing for a healthcare bill that would actually subsidize or pay for reproduction. Well, Member of Congress Manny Pacquiao has actually drawn the line. Manny Pacquiao does not want the state to subsidize reproduction in any way, shape, or form. Right? This is a big political battle. Manny Pacquiao is not a political figurehead. He's actually a real politician, a real elected official, waging a fight that has even made its way into the Wall Street Journal. Now, you need to be aware of that story, simply because Manny Pacquiao remains, deservedly so, one of the biggest names in boxing. Many people want to know what Manny Pacquiao is going to do next. Many fighters are angling themselves to fight Manny Pacquiao. Just understand that Manny Pacquiao also has a life outside the ring. It's one he's very committed to, right? He's not in Congress by accident. He had to run a political campaign, which he won, right? And so just pay attention to his political future and Vitaly Klitschko's political future, because both may impact their boxing futures, right? Now, speaking of Manny Pacquiao, let me just say that I went back and I looked at the last round of the Vicente Escovedo, Adrian Broner fight. That round's even better than I thought it was initially. And let me just point out that Broner's strategy in that last round, where he fights on his front foot and actually comes forward behind a jab and great defense. And understand the secret to Adrian Broner is that it's not his offense. It's that defensively, he's one of the very best in the sport, right? Defensively, it's really him and Floyd Mayweather, right? There's nobody else in the sport, in my opinion, who has that level of defense. And my point to you is simply, the people fighting Manny Pacquiao, most of them have fought on their back foot, right? Even Timothy Bradley, for stretches of that fight, and yes, I still think Bradley won that fight, fought on his back foot. I believe the blueprint for beating Manny Pacquiao can be found in the last round of that Broner-Escovedo fight. It's to come forward with a jab, right? Come forward and great defense. In fact, let me say this. If you look at the Floyd Mayweather, Shane Mosley beginning, you're going to see that that's what Mayweather was trying to do to Shane Mosley. I'm guessing Mayweather had that strategy in mind in preparation for fighting Manny Pacquiao, until Mayweather got hit upside the head with a Shane Mosley sledgehammer straight right hand, right? Then, of course, Mayweather was holding on for dear life. And as that fight unfolded, Mayweather backed away a bit, took his foot off the gas. Well, Broner keeps his foot on the gas. And I'm just here to say that right now, if they were to announce a fight between Adrian Broner and Manny Pacquiao, it could be at 140, it could be at 147. My money would be on Adrian Broner. Let me go one step further, right? Because styles make fights. And I believe if you can come forward behind a jab, be a little bit more aggressive than Eric Morales was in his first fight against Manny Pacquiao, a fight he won behind a jab, right? Manny Pacquiao's last loss before the Timothy Bradley loss. If you can be a little bit more aggressive than that, given that Manny Pacquiao's a little bit older now, and like Floyd Mayweather, doesn't have the foot speed that he had when he was in his prime, I think you'd have a chance to win a fight against Pacquiao by a wide margin. Now, let me just say this. Broner gave an interview recently where, among other things, he discusses a possible Pacquiao matchup. Here's his line. He says, "I ain't got nothing against Pacquiao. He just can't beat my big brother, Floyd Mayweather. If he signs that dotted line, I'll blank him up too. He can sign it, we can fight, it's not too late. I'm just going to do to him what he used to. He's used to not getting his hands raised. How many losses he got, right? All I can say is if we want fights at the highest level in the sport, right, and I have an agenda, then we should be pushing for Broner against both Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, right? Broner Mayweather, I might have to be on the sidelines. That's a great fight. In fact, for that fight, given the great defense of both fighters, I'd probably take the over, right? I'd probably bet distance and not guy. But Broner against Manny Pacquiao, I'd have to take Broner to win the fight. Straddled, of course, against Pacquiao by knockout, because what people don't seem to realize is Manny Pacquiao remains one of the hardest punchers pound for pound in the sport. Let me just point out, too, it's an old adage in boxing, power is the last to go. Okay, now let's go one step further and let's talk about David Price. Now, I have a video up where I talk about a fight Price is thinking of doing in February of next year against Michael Grant as part of an explosive card that's going to be taking place in South Africa. That card's going to have many other fights on it. I've gotten a flood of comments asking me about Price's next fight against Audley Harrison. Well, I got to tell you, if I'm talking about Price against Michael Grant, you can imagine I'm expecting Price to walk through Audley Harrison. You know, I don't say this lightly. Audley Harrison, who has a great trainer, who has pretty good boxing skills up close. Audley Harrison has some of the slowest feet in the heavyweight division, right? He shouldn't be able to get close enough to Price to do any damage, right? Price should be able to literally, on his back foot, box circles around Audley Harrison, right? Harrison, who has some skills, just doesn't have any way to deliver them when you stay outside, right? The key moment in a Price-Audley Harrison fight is going to be when Price realizes he has the hand speed on Audley Harrison. Is he going to foolishly be lured into an actual fight, right? If he stays on his back foot, he still has a chance to knock out Harrison because he's taller than Harrison, right? And what'll happen is he'll tire Harrison out as he sticks and moves, right? That's the way to fight Audley Harrison. The wrong way to fight Harrison is to make it a testosterone contest, get lured into a fight, and then suddenly you're in Harrison's wheelhouse, and Harrison still has an explosive right hand. Let me also point out, too, that Harrison is late 30s, maybe early 40s. He's having pectoral problems, and understand that's major, right? Because you use your chest muscles when you're throwing big punches. And keep in mind, Harrison has to rely on his punching power because he doesn't have the legs, right? You know what they say, the legs are the first to go, right? And so I believe Harrison's legs have gone. And I just think he's breaking down. I'll be surprised if his fight against David Price is even competitive. I like David Price big in that fight. Let's also say this too. Brook. He has an eliminator against Hector Saldivia. That's coming up October 20th. You need to know about that fight. We'll talk about it before it happens. Also, Hasim Rockman, The Rock, who, in his best moment, knocked out Lennox Lewis, right? He has a fight coming up, a shot at the heavyweight title against Alexander Povetkin. Now, I'm curious about this fight because, in my opinion, Hasim Rahman has been a shell of himself for some time. If you want to see a fighter get dominated, look at Rahman's fight against Vladimir Klitschko. It's embarrassing how dominated Rahman got. Now, Alexander Povetkin surprised me in his last fight against Marco Huck. I always viewed Povetkin as one of the best athletes in the sport, but yet Povetkin looked tired late in that fight. Right? This fight's going to be a good litmus test to decide whether Povetkin is a real competitor to Vladimir Klitschko, right? Or Vitaly Klitschko, if Vitaly decides to stay in the ring, or David Haye, right? Who I still consider to be an elite heavyweight, right? We'll find out a lot if Povetkin belongs in that class, because if he struggles against Hasim Rahman, that's going to let you know that he doesn't, because I believe the first three guys I named would dominate Hasim Rahman. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments for me here online. I know there's a difference of opinion on what happened in Manny Pacquiao's last fight. I respect the fact that many hardcore boxing types, Emmanuel Stewart, for example, Buddy McGirt, saw that fight and thought that Manny Pacquiao won the fight, whether Pacquiao beat Bradley or not. What we need to do is we really do need to consider whether or not Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather are slowing down, and can Pacquiao beat, let's say, someone like Adrian Broner? Look past the weight problems, right? Just look at the defense and understand, I've said this before, defense is the one thing that actually carries through different weight classes, right? If Manny Pacquiao were to fight Broner, right, all I can say is, which one of those two do you believe has the better defense? If Broner is able to come forward, right? I've always had a problem with Broner's wide foot base, right? But if Broner is able to come forward behind a jab, what would be Pacquiao's next move? Because Pacquiao wouldn't be able to land the straight left hand that has made him very successful, right? And so those are the things that we need to consider. Also, if Manny Pacquiao's in the Philippines, and if he is, actively involved in politics, when exactly is he going to be able to devote the time to train, to face an unbeaten fighter like Adrian Broner? Also, if Manny Pacquiao himself thought he was at the top of his game and felt rejuvenated in the sport, why is it taking so long for Manny Pacquiao to decide whether to fight Timothy Bradley in a rematch, or whether to fight Juan Manuel Marquez one more time, or whether to call out one of these younger guys, one of the new frontier guys in the sport, like Adrian Broner, right? Why isn't he doing that? Keep in mind, Paulie Malignaggi has one of the belts at 147 pounds, and Pacquiao could conceivably fight for a title without fighting Bradley or Marquez, right? Two of the guys who have given him tougher fights, right? If he wants a fight to just get back in the game with a strap of leather, that's there for him. He's taking his time. All I can say is, when guys get over 30, they really do start to ask themselves what they want to do with the rest of their lives. And I don't see Manny Pacquiao having the same fire to continue to box that he had a few years ago. Let me hear from you. Thanks for watching.